Alright, so when we last left, uh, Dr. Edmonds is explaining that Danny's uh, visions are just coincidence. Just for, hold on, he's basically saying he'll grow out of it. When a child sees a troll in his bedroom or a vampire outside the window, we simply smile indulgently. We have we have a one-sentence explanation that explains the whole range of such phenomena in children. He'll grow out of it, Jack said. Edmonds blinked. My very words, he said. Yes. Now, I would guess that Danny was in a pretty good position to develop a full-fledged psychosis. Unhappy home life, a big imagination, the invisible friend who was so real to him that he nearly became real to you. Instead of growing out of his childhood schizophrenia, he might he might well have grown into it and become autistic. Wendy asked. She had read about autism. The word frightened her. It sounded like dread and white silence. And I left my drink in the room. So fuck it, going at it dry, cottonmouth. Possibly, but not necessarily. He might simply have entered Tony's world he might yeah, and never come back to what he calls real things. God, Jack said. But now the basic situation has changed drastically. Mr. Torrance no longer drinks. You're in a new place where conditions have forced the three of you into a tighter family unit than ever before. Certainly tighter than my own, where my wife and kids may see me for only 2 or 3 hours a day. To my mind, he's in a perfect healing situation. And I think the very fact that he is able to differentiate so sharply between Tony's world and real things says a lot about the fundamentally healthy state of his mind. He says that you two are no longer considering divorce. Is he as right as I think he is? Yes, Wendy said, and Jack squeezed her hand tightly, almost painfully. She squeezed back. Edmonds nodded. He really doesn't need Tony anymore. Danny is flushing him out of his system. Tony no longer brings pleasant visions but hostile nightmares that are too frightening for him to remember except fragmentarily. He 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 internalized Tony during a difficult, desperate life situation. And Tony is not leaving easily, but he is leaving. Your son is a little like a junkie kicking the habit. He stood up, and Torrance has stood also. You think I'd be more comfortable here? As I said, I'm not a psychiatrist. If the nightmares are still continuing when your job at the Overlook ends next spring, Mr. Torrance, I would strongly urge you to take him to this man in Boulder. I will. Let's get out of here and tell him he can go home, Edmund said. I want to thank you, Jack told him painfully. I feel better about all this than I have in a very long time. So do I, Wendy said. At the door, Edmonds paused and looked at Wendy. Do you or did you have a sister, Mrs. Torrance, named Aylin? Wendy looked at him surprised. Yes, I did. She was killed outside our home in Somersworth, New Hampshire, when she was 6 and I was 10. She chased a ball into the street and was struck by a delivery van. Does does Danny know that? No, I don't. I don't know. I don't think so. That wasn't in the book. I actually did stutter there. He says you were thinking about her in the waiting room. I was, Wendy said slowly. For the first time in, oh, I don't know how long. Does the word red drum mean anything to you? Mean anything to either of you? Wendy shook her head, but Jack said He mentioned that word last night just before he went to sleep. Red drum. No, rum, Edmonds corrected. He was quite emphatic about that. Rum, as in the drink, the alcoholic drink. Oh, Jack said. It fits in, doesn't it? He took his handkerchief out of his back pocket and wiped his lips with it. Does the phrase "The Shining" mean anything to you? This time they both shook their heads. Doesn't matter, I guess, Edmund said. He opened the door into the waiting room. Anybody here named Danny Torrance that would like to go home? Hi, Daddy. Hi, Mommy. He stood up from the small table where he had been leafing slowly through a copy of Where the Wild Things Are and muttering the words he knew aloud. He ran to Jack, who scooped him up. Wendy ruffled his hair. Edmonds peered at him. If you don't love your mommy and daddy, you can stay with good old Bill. No, sir, Danny said emphatically. He slung one arm around Jack's neck, one arm around Wendy's, and looked radiantly happy. Okay, Edmund said, smiling. He looked at Wendy. You call if you have any problems. Yes, I don't think you will, Edmund said, smiling. Okay, so that was only 6 minutes. But I would rather be safe than sorry, you know. I'll be back whenever I feel like it with chapter 18. I hope you're really enjoying it. I know a few of you are falling behind because of the rate that I'm spitting these out, but it'll get in. Let me think how to word this. It gets better. It gets much better. We're basically picking it up now. We're going from backstory to a little bit. We're getting more into the hotel. Things are happening at the hotel. Jack is wiping his mouth again like he did when he was drinking. The wasps, uh, came back after they were all dead. And we're getting insight on Tony. And let me say, for a doctor who's not a psychiatrist, he was spitting out those terms, wasn't he? Like auto hypnosis and all that. But I'll be back with chapter 18 whenever.